real scrappy startup spirit, David. So credit to you for stepping up and doing it. All right, folks, we should be live. We're live, everybody. I do believe so. I just want to make sure that that is the case. This is Brainfood Live on Air. It's a special episode midweek. And it is because my friend David Paffenholz here kind of insisted to take a risk. And I thought, you know what, I have to embrace this. Because you got to respect the kind of chutzpah of a young startup founder prepared to show what he's got. So, folks, before we kick off, let's just make sure audio visual is fine. Let me know if you can hear me in the comments, folks. There's a few people in Europe watching this, which is great. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me on Crowdcast. You should see me and David both on screen. We are live streaming this on LinkedIn, of course. You should be seeing this on my LinkedIn and also David's, I believe. So if you're watching it on either of those two channels, drop me a comment there and let me know whether we're live or okay. Just checking on my phone whether I can see myself. Yes, we seem to be live there. Excellent. We've got a lot of people watching on LinkedIn, which is cool ass. All right, fantastic. Looks like we're getting some sort of people seeing and hearing us okay. By the way, feel free to commentate on what you see on screen. Okay, this is an interactive exercise. Yes, we're going to do a demo, but we want to hear from you. Let us know what you think, because you're going to be future users of products like this. These are transformatory tools, apparently, to our industry. You're going to be transformed in this case. We need to be contributing to the conversation. So make sure you're active in the comments here, folks. But anyway, let's introduce our wonderful guest today, David Paffenholz. Wonderful to see you. He's getting up at 7 a.m. in the morning today to do this show for us. So massive credit to him as well. But David, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I'm David, co-founder of JuiceBox. JuiceBox is an AI recruiting platform. So we help our customers source, assess, and engage talent. And since we're an AI recruiting platform, that also means we now have AI agents. And it's kind of part of the topic for today's live stream as well.
Fantastic to have you on, David. And you kind of burst onto the scene, probably about a year or so ago, wasn't it? Like 2 years or so, I can't remember. It feels like a year ago. And you were JuiceBox, one of the very first companies to say, "Oh, we've got a GPT for people sourcing." And everyone thought, "Oh my God, of course this would happen." But then they saw the product, and actually a lot of people thought, "Wow, these guys have got something here." So can you run us through very quickly what PeopleGPT is and how this sort of new innovation differs from what you had before?
For sure. So a lot of our customers might still know us by our original brand launch of PeopleGPT. And that was kind of our first product, the first time we introduced it as well, with a kind of a video on LinkedIn. PeopleGPT is kind of still a core part of the JuiceBox platform, is our search engine, and it lets you describe using natural language who you're looking for, and then using that natural language to further refine your search. Since that has grown out quite a bit too, and it's very much designed to be a user in control. You can decide who you source for and do so with a lot of AI to help assist you in that and help scale out that sourcing compared to, say, doing a Boolean search or setting filters manually.
Yeah. So main thing I got from PeopleGPT was being able to accept natural language input and then go off into the web and find those people. So it's almost like the classic scenario. I need a Python engineer in San Francisco that recently relocated from Canada at this kind of 500,000 base and below, and the GPT would be able to go out there and have a look see. Different from having to basically hack around with a Boolean. And also you did stuff like, didn't you do things like rank candidates in terms of them coming back, and there was some sort of scoring system, and also messaging system as well. So you'd be able to automate a message out based on what their profile behavior and stuff like this. So it was candidate search and engage, wasn't it? The two things that PeopleGPT did.
That's exactly right. And I think one of the first things we brought to the market too on that was the fact that we kind of allowed users to not just use AI to create filters or to set filters, but to also come up with entirely new ones. And so, for example, let's say we want someone who has experience leading a team of at least 7 engineers. It's a very specific criteria, really hard to recreate in a Boolean, or basically requires you to do that manually in the end. That's exactly the type of criteria that PeopleGPT is really good at searching for. And you could actually stack multiple of those criteria into a single search and get quite specific candidate matches based on that.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. We've got a couple of questions flying into the comments there. Feel free to intercept them if you want, David, but if not, we'll be able to store them towards the end of the show. But yeah, AI agents. When agentic AI became a term, what did that mean for you as a product maker? Can you actually give your own definition as to what agentic AI is? We're in that weird moment, annoying moment in the discourse where people are saying, "Oh, that's not agentic AI, that's just automation." What's your definition as a product maker? How would you describe it?
Yep, and I think the comparison to automation is a really good one. I'd say the biggest difference between automation and agentic AI, and the way I define it as well, is two things. The first one is, can it plan? So can it think a step ahead and decide on a course of actions? And second, can it reflect and then use that reflection to improve its actions? And so a normal automation is pretty simple. It has kind of one clearly defined purpose, and that's the one thing it's going to do. What an agent does that goes one step further is it's able to kind of do the automation, but then it's able to reflect on that. Did that go well? Did I achieve the intended outcome? And if not, it can go back and make changes to it. And so, some examples of an agent that we've seen was like OpenAI's Operator launch. That's essentially an agent that can help browse, and it can't just click individual links as a web scraper might, which is more of an automation. It can actually click a link, see what's on the page, and then decide, did I go to the right page or not? And if not, navigate to a different page. And so it's a little bit more like a human in the sense that humans also reflect, think about whether they got to the right step, and if not, go somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay. And you're saying that you've got an AI agent now built in from the JuiceBox platform. Tell us a little bit about that before we actually unveil it and have a look-see. What does it do? How is it different from what it was before?
For sure. So our philosophy and kind of the main goal that we have is empowering recruiters and sourcers, which are our main users, to more easily find the best talent for their teams. And so we started off by doing that by building kind of our AI suite, which was more of an assistant or co-pilot for what users were doing. The idea with the agents is to provide a second stream that operates always on, always sourcing for you in the background, while you can still do your regular searches using the JuiceBox platform. And so that was kind of the goal when we set out to build this, is what can we do that's always working for you, that gives you results even when you're sleeping. And so with the JuiceBox agent is the first time we're introducing a capability like that. You're not only able to describe who you're searching for, but then actually give it feedback and have it start doing that work for you on an ongoing basis. It also learns from you. And so it understands what type of roles do you usually search for? What type of reasons might you reject a candidate for? And how can we consider that in your next search process? And so the agent is truly designed to be a partner for you that can assist you with that sourcing and outreach.
Yeah, really interesting. Okay, folks, what do you reckon? Is it time for us to have a look-see? Let us know in the comments. Are you tired of my questions? Do you want to see what this looks like? I'm going to answer for you because I do want to see what it looks like. By the way, folks, I haven't seen any prior demo of this. The challenge on my side is also I want to get into this as cold as I can. So David, take it away. Let's do a screen share. This is a live demo, folks. This isn't something that we've pre-planned or rehearsed or scripted. I've not seen any of the things that are about to happen. So just have a look-see and see what's what.
All right, I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Is that coming through okay?
Yep, I can see it.
Perfect. So starting out on the JuiceBox agent page, initial input looks kind of similar to our search, but what happens in the background is quite different. And so let's say we're looking for a software engineer in San Francisco. And they should have experience with, say, Python, Kubernetes, and let's say LLMs or GenAI. And we'll say 5+ years and experience working at startups. And so with this, we'll have our initial search input. I've hit enter, and what the JuiceBox agent is now going to do is conduct multiple different search strategies, trying to find the best fit matches for that search. It'll then reflect on those profiles, see if they're going in the right direction or not, and show us those profiles for initial review. And so it's just gone ahead and done that, and it's asking us to review these profiles to share our feedback. So we don't actually see any filters or any criteria that it said. Rather, we'll see an initial set of profiles and give feedback there. So I've opened up that Review Profiles tab, and we'll see our first profile on the left-hand side here. Here's a regular profile view, so we'll see some details like the companies they've worked at, average tenure. If we scroll down, we'll get some additional data on them as well. And then in the middle, the agent explains why we match this profile. And so they have experience with Python, experience with Kubernetes, experience with LLMs or GenAI, as well as experience working at startups. For each of these, the agent also gives a justification for why they fit that criteria. And so in this case, the candidate has experience working with LLMs by using Hugging Face. If we now actually click into the profile, we'll see those details too. So they developed an AI co-pilot using LLMs while working at NVIDIA.
And then there's,
With
I can see on the right hand side, approve or reject. So presumably that's the feedback loop that the human is helping the AI for future searches to see how close or far away you are.
Exactly. And so in this configuration phase, our goal is to get to a point where we approve 3 profiles in a row. Once we've approved 3 profiles in a row, we've kind of fully configured the agent. And so as an example, let's say I want to approve this first profile. I'll now get another profile, Casey. I'll actually see that the candidate is already found in my Ashby. And I'm also going to take a look at their technical profile. So for example, I can take a closer look at some of the repos they've contributed to, because I'm seeing a couple of questions in the chat about whether this only pulls from LinkedIn. It does not, over 30 different data sources. So for example, in this case, we'll see some of the repos they've contributed to in Python and why they could be a fit. Now, just to make things a little bit harder for our agent, I'm going to reject this candidate. And I'm going to say, we also want them to have big tech experience, ideally at a FANG company within the last 5 years. And so when we reject a profile, it'll ask us to give that reasoning. If I now click submit, it's going to reflect on why we rejected them, update its criteria, and suggest new profiles for that configuration. And so in just a few seconds, we'll see that appear here, and it's going to ask us to review those profiles again. We could keep going in this loop of reviewing profiles for as long as we want to, until it's sufficiently narrow for who we're looking for. And so it's already adjusted the search and is going to give us a couple new profiles for review. And so in this case, we see a new criteria, experience in big tech companies, and the candidate matches because they've worked both at Amazon and Adobe within the last 5 years. The agent is still always subject to you overriding it, and so you can manually edit criteria, and you can give it additional feedback to change the direction you're going in. Now, let's say these are looking like they're going in the right direction. So I'll click approve on a few of these profiles, which wraps up our initial configuration. We can then choose the goal for the agent to get to. That can either be selecting an email sequence or just creating a short list. If you select an email sequence, the agent's able to reach out continuously to these candidates for you. If you choose to create a short list, it'll just build that list for you instead. And then, for example, if you're doing an executive search and you want to do some additional manual review, you could do that for the shortlist option too.
I think most recruiters are going to say, yeah, I want to do the outreach. But what do you mean continuous? Are we just going to keep hitting them until they sue us? Like, that concerns me, David. What do you mean continually message them?
Good question. Yeah, it's all within fair limits. So it's still based on our regular email sequences. And so email sequences are part of the JuiceBox platform. You can actually access the same sequences you might be using for other searches, or you could create a new one for the agent. And so, for example, let's say I take this backend engineer sequence, and then I click confirm. It'll now ask me what volume we want to do this at. And so there's a few recommended options right now, say 25 profiles a day or even 35 profiles a day. And so with that, I can finally decide if I want to manually approve them or let the agent reach out automatically. We were actually initially under whether to add this feature because we thought, we want to the real value of the agent comes from when it's fully autonomous. That being said, we actually found a lot of value in that individual review because it basically lets you do a secondary check. Is the agent truly going in the right direction I'm in? And build the confidence of, before I let it go and send emails on my behalf, I want to make sure that it's really sourcing the people that I want to be reaching out to.
Yeah. Quick question on the email side. One of the major problems in recruiting is to make sure that the history of the contacts we might have had with that candidate are clear. So, for instance, I don't want my colleague doing the same drip campaign to the same guy. I'm not sure how you could dedupe this, because it's not the same way as having collecting a database of candidates. It seems to be like pulling candidates in real time from sort of the web. So how are you going to avoid the duplication? How are you going to avoid the overlap?
Yes. So 3 things that we do here, and this was part of the reason that we built the agent in a way that it's a part of the JuiceBox platform rather than its standalone product. And so the first thing it does is it'll check if you or anyone else on your team has either messaged the candidate through JuiceBox or added them to a shortlist within the last 90 days. That's the default setting. You can adjust it if you want to. The second is we can check in your ATS, does the candidate already exist in your ATS? If so, when were they last updated? And finally, we only reach out to verified personal emails for the outreach. So if no verified personal email is available, we recommend doing LinkedIn outreach instead, which can also be a part of JuiceBox sequences. In those cases, it'll just send you a reminder as well as the kind of prepared message as a task for you to complete. So that part is still a bit more manual, but the agent will work with you to kind of make sure we complete that while also staying compliant with LinkedIn's terms.
Okay, cool. There's a couple of questions here on LinkedIn, and we need to deal with that. Like, okay, what's LinkedIn's approach to this? Are they going to block this or what? It seems that they might or should. Like, what's your position on it right now?
Yes, so the agent uses publicly available profile data for its searches. And that can include any type of public data available. And similarly, we are able to use contact data in order to do that outreach. And so most of our users use email outreach as their primary channel, and then kind of LinkedIn outreach as a secondary channel. So if you have that as a core part of your strategy, you're still able to do that while also having some flexibility and say not only relying on LinkedIn emails for that outreach.
Okay. There's a question about ATSs in my mind. And by the way, folks, I'm just like floating these questions that are in. If you've got questions, stick them in the chat, or better yet, stick them in the question and answer segment on the right-hand sidebar here. The reason why is because I think the chat we might lose sort of thread of. So if you have a question, you've asked it in the chat, we haven't got to it, copy and paste the question, stick it in the question and answer section, because we'll go to that at the end of this show and make sure David answers them. ATS is the key to deduping it. So I'm assuming this cannot work without an ATS, or if you did buy a license without an ATS, then it's I guess at your own risk of the dedupe and stuff like that, of duplication. That's going to happen, because without the ATS, that's going to be the thing that stops some of the potentially negative outcomes that come from having messaging the same candidates and stuff like this.
Yeah, that being said, one alternate approach, and we actually have a number of customers using the agent without the ATS as well. So if you choose this individual review option, it does have like a very nice way of just approving each profile. So I'll just click start sourcing. We'll get some confetti, and now the agent's starting to work for us. So this takes like 3 or 4 minutes until it finds the first batch of profiles for a review, and we'll kind of see this bar load up to 100%. We can actually also see like the full history of what we did. So this was the search we just put together. But what I'll do here is I'm just going to hop over to a different agent so that we don't have to wait for that bar to go to 100%. So I'm just going to choose this agent over here. And it'll take us straight into the mission control dashboard of the agent. And so this is your interface for seeing what is the agent doing, what profiles have I reached out to, what profiles are in review. And so to kind of come back to the question you mentioned around what if I don't have my ATS connected, if you here head into this review leads option, you can still individually approve and send an email or reject the candidate. And so you still have that full control if you want to individually approve leads rather than going into auto outbound. Once you get to a step where you feel comfortable with it and you've, say, connected your ATS or connected your data, you can easily switch the setting back to automatic mode. And so at that point, the agent will automatically reach out to these 25 or 35 profiles every single day, while still showing you that information as part of this mission control. In this case, it hasn't actually done any outreach yet, which is why this graph is at 0. But once it does, we see the open rate, reply rate, click rate, etc. come through too. So it kind of updates dynamically based on the progress that the agent is making.
Okay, let's talk about open rates and reply rates, David. I mean, early days, but what are you seeing as that you're getting from this? I'm assuming the messages. I mean, I guess there's probably configurability in terms of how the what kind of messages go out, but also presumably you've generated the outbound with the AI, first of all. What kind of open rates are you getting? Like, what's the engagement sort of stats on aggregate so far?
Yeah, so I'd say a lot of the actual outreach components ends up still being very correlated to what the organization is generally seeing. So, if it's a really strong brand name domain that or company that the candidates are familiar with, that's going to lead to a boost in response rates, open rates, etc. We have customers using the agent with reply rates above 30%. We have other customers using the agent where reply rates might be more closer to 5 or 10%. Even if it's, say, in that 5 to 10% range, because these are coming in every single day, that still means you're getting 2 to 3 interested responses in your inbox every day without kind of having to do anything on the day to day. And so I wouldn't expect it to be vastly different from what reply rates look like for regular outreach, with perhaps an additional boost coming from the fact that it will be very curated in the profiles that it reaches out to, rather than having kind of a high volume approach.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So, okay, there's a reply. Is that when the human being drops back in the loop, or does the agent have the ability to handle the conversation further?
Yeah, so the agent will remain in the background. It still will classify the candidate as interested or not interested. And so let's say the candidate asks a follow-up question initially and then later on says, I'm interested, yet actually like to enter the interview process. And at that point, the agent will update that candidate to be interested and reflect that in the dashboard too. So you'll have a kind of final interested percentage. That's currently the main outcome of the agent flows. So once the candidate has responded, has indicated whether they're interested or not, is where the agent ends. And at that point, it's in your regular inbox. It's a part of your normal email conversation, and you can take over from there. There may be some additional features coming in that direction in the future to maybe help answer some initial questions that candidates might have. That being said, from the users that we have on the agent, I'd say the biggest lift that we're able to help them with is that daily sourcing plus outreach.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, this is I remember doing a hackathon back in my own tech founder days. It was 10 years or so ago, David, in Berlin, as a matter of fact.
Oh, no way.
I was in Berlin. We did a hackathon. I should have won it because I basically created what we call an automated sourcer at the time. And just hacking together a bunch of things with a couple of developers from what's that big German software company that
SAP?
no, it's a German name and builds software for job boards and stuff. I forget the name of it. But anyway, two good dudes from there, and we built this thing. I lost I came second. I'm still outraged by it because we should have won it. But it seems that this is it. Like this is the thing where you've got an agent that can search off a natural language prompt and constantly find new candidates. So presumably, tell me a little bit about that search aspect, actually. So how does it do that? Are there is there a bunch of sites that it ranks, that it hits first? How does it know when a new candidate has emerged on an old site? Is it able to track like behavior, like, oh, this person's updated their GitHub or something? Is it able to do that? So it kind of, tell us a little bit about how it does the sourcing from the sites, I guess.
For sure. So I'd say the core workflow that the agent is doing is pretty similar to what a human would do. That's actually how we built the first version of the agent. Is we looked at, what is the workflow that the best sourcers or the best recruiters have when using JuiceBox. And often what we saw is, they'd start off with one kind of initial search that would go for the most like spot on candidates, basically all the criteria that they know they wanted, and the most direct way of getting to that results. Oftentimes that would yield a kind of the biggest number of high quality candidates, but it was also not comprehensive. And so let's say it creates one first sourcing strategy that might be the most direct way of getting to your results. But then it'll actually go back and create additional search strategies that may be adjacent ways to get to your result. And so let's say you're looking for someone with that Python experience, you might start off with searching for candidates that have kind of current job titles involving Python or currently working on Python projects. But then after that, you might take a second step at it and look at candidates who are maybe in different engineering roles now, but more recently worked with Python or have previous experience in Python as well, just to give an example. The agent will do all of those things in parallel. And so actually run dozens of searches at once whenever you set up a new search. It has access to the same data that we have on the JuiceBox platform or in the PeopleGPT search engine. So over 30 different data sources, ranging from profile data, but also including things like company data, funding data, company trajectories or trends. Is the company growing? Has there been an executive that has recently switched roles, etc.? And then it's actually able to do kind of full deep research on those companies too. So let's say a company's say LinkedIn profile doesn't actually have that much info on what the company really does, and we have to go and check out the website of the company to find out what that actually means. The JuiceBox agent is able to do that too. And so it can get live checks of what does a company do? Is this candidate based on the company relevant for my role? It takes into account all that information, and then it starts evaluating. And so if we go into the search, I'm just going to pull up the agent that we just configured together. And it's just wrapped up the initial sourcing. So we'll start seeing our list of candidates over here. But if we then click into that review option, we'll actually see that evaluation of why we match this candidate. These criteria are both created by the agent, but also updated by the agent. And so it can see, are these criteria working for me? Is the user happy with the profiles that I'm showing? And if not, it will go and update itself as well. I know that was kind of a lengthy response, but I hope that gives like a kind of an overview of how the agent works, what it does, and how it researches to find that data.
No, really, really interesting. And by the way, folks, as David and I were talking, that this thing was working in the background, and it's basically, it's just the efficiency is kind of obvious there, because here we are having this conversation, and it's brought back a bunch of candidates, and presumably as the flow kind of improves, you might have set the situation up so it automatically goes out and starts connecting with them and bringing them into the flow. So very, very, very exciting indeed. I want to talk about behavioral data. It sounds like the data sources you care about most, and it makes sense. It's generally profile data. So wherever you can find job title information, typically like responsibility type data formats and those types of things. What about like behavioral data or conversational data? The old school like sourcing people based on conversation, which is what some of the magic of the sourcing in the 2010s was. Oh, we have no profile data, but this dude is talking about Kubernetes all the time. I'm assuming that he is an engineer, and we'll pull it out from there. Is the agent able to do that where there's sparse biographical data, but there may be some behavioral data that indicates or infers that this person may be a relevant candidate?
Good question. So I'd say that's where like some of our data sources are more valuable than others. So we do track conversational data. I'd say in particular like forum mentions. So think in the direction of like a Stack Overflow forum conversation where someone might be giving advice on solving a particular problem or using a particular platform. Those can be quite valuable sources to get that more conversational style data, or basically like non-traditional data sources. And so the agent has access to those. That being said, the total volume of profiles from the more alternate data sources is going to be lower than more structured profile data. That being said, they might be particularly valuable because not every other recruiter is also reaching out to them.
Yeah, very interesting. Obviously, this immediately looks like super relevant for software companies, people hiring software engineers. I've seen somebody in the chat say, "Hey, I'm recruiting for a bunch of vets in South Wales," and this individual, I forget her name. I say, "Yeah, it works." So, why would it work for like non-tech people? I mean, has it been particularly tuned for tech, or is the agent pretty agnostic in terms of the sectorally and regionally, I guess?
Yep. So when we were running a beta of our agent for the past couple months, and we ran that with 60 existing customers who were invited to try out the agent and who wanted to do so. We explicitly chose those customers to be across industries and across geographies. And so that includes, customers in North America, where we have the greatest number of customers, but also customers in Europe, customers in Asia, customers in Africa, and more. At the same time, we also kind of explicitly tried to focus on different types of roles. And so, we started off with a lot of experience in tech recruitment, but the majority of our customers don't do tech recruitment. And so a lot of our testing and focuses is to ensure that the roles that we test the agent with are also equally diverse. And so that includes blue collar roles, that includes executive search, that includes everything in between.
Very, very interesting. Okay. Before we switch to questions, I know there's already a bunch of them in the Q&A. By the way, folks, if you've got a question, stick it into the Q&A feature there. I'm going to just hop over on LinkedIn as well, just to make sure if you've got any questions, stick them in the comment thread, and I'm going to try and pull them into the conversation so we know what we're doing. But before we go into that, I just want to do a final question for you, David. Is there anything that you haven't shown us yet that people might be interested in, or have we more or less seen the agent as it currently stands?
No, we've gone through the core agent flow. Cool thing about the agent is anyone can try it out. So you can even try it out for free without having any JuiceBox plan. And so as everything we do, we want to let you test it before you have to make any purchase. So if anyone wants to try out the agent, you can go to JuiceBox.ai and try it out for free that way too. And then I think in terms of the actual flow, we've gone through most of the core steps of that.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Okay, folks, let's hit the question. And by the way, amazing that there's basically a free run at this. So you can more or less finish watching this show. Just hit juicebox.ai and check it out yourself. No excuse, folks. If you're a recruiter, want to get an edge, and you've got a free opportunity to try something, go ahead and do that. Let's go and hit these questions now. I'm just going to go in. Actually, there's a voting system here, so let's go with the vote. This one's from Gavin. I'll read out the questions so everyone can if you're listening to this, you can also understand the context. David, how does the agent deal with a candidate that is only job title and current company listed on LinkedIn, no other info? Does it infer skill sets and experience?
Great question. And hey, Gavin, I can't see you, but thanks for the question. The agent does have one, it will infer experiences directly, but then two, it actually will do additional research if it can. And so that's one of the advantages of the agent, basically having some time to complete the search process rather than having to do it all in real time. It's able to actually go and search, based on the company website, what does a person with this job title likely do? What do other people at that company with that job title currently do? What do other people with a similar background and experience do? And so it'll use that information to create likely matches. I would say that for a profile where there's like literally no information beyond job title and company, the match score might be a little bit lower. And so in terms of how that's shown on the JuiceBox platform, it might be more in that yellow bucket of potential fit, like we have this for this one criteria here, because there isn't sufficient information information to make sure that it's a strong fit. And so it'll still do its best to infer and find additional data, but it'll also give you kind of a heads up that it might be unsure for some of its assessments.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for the question, Gavin, and that's a good answer there. Okay, Catherine Robinson. Catherine, good to see you. Does it work in any industry or just tech? I think we've answered that already. I think the idea is that it should work outside. But tech tech is probably the most suitable in a sense because there's a lot of jargon, there's a lot of stuff to mine. There's a lot more data typically in the profile there that might be valuable. Okay, Sean Wilkes said, what guardrails have you on bias mitigation? Considering you're asking a recruiter to give an opinion on 3 profiles, there's not a lot of configuration and is based on a single person's opinion. What's your posture on that question, David?
Yep. Bias testing is a big part of what we do. So initially, we ran all of our bias testing in-house. Now we've actually engaged a third-party auditor to specifically conduct an AI bias audit for us. And we've already gotten results of those, and those are very positive. But we are actually publishing those results publicly as well. So in the next few weeks, you'll see an announcement from us, including a live dashboard where you can see the monthly AI bias tests that we run on JuiceBox, and that includes both the agent as well as the regular platform. And then I'd say on the more general principle note, there is some cool things that we can actually do proactively to reduce the bias. And so, for example, when the agent looks at a profile, it doesn't have access to, say, their name. It just has access to specific experiences or companies. And so there's some things that it automatically does that have a big impact in reducing bias, where there's kind of no chance of data that we don't want going into an assessment going into it accidentally.
And this is tricky again, and it's not about the tech, but presumably you could prompt the agent to specifically target underrepresented groups, for instance, if you wanted to do that. I mean, I would imagine you could say, I mean, this is actually an old school sourcing technique where if you're looking for a bunch of, you want to create a more sort of gender diverse talent pipeline, for instance, you could do a name search, for instance, as men and women typically have different names. So you could prompt, I would imagine, the agent to do that, even though I think a lot of people would rightly think, isn't that just like injecting sort of a fairly biased approach to do a debiasing exercise? But I think that's a conversation beyond platform and really into, you know, a bit more of a wider ethical question. But okay, let's move on to this interesting question here from Sandy. In India, many candidates are on Naukri. Does it pull from Naukri? LinkedIn is not the be all and end all. GitHub is not the be all and end all. There's actually loads of different platforms out there in different parts of the world. Can it help in those places?
Yeah, great question. So Naukri specifically, we currently don't have a partnership with, so we aren't able to show profile data from Naukri directly. That being said, we actually have very good coverage in India. So if you're recruiting in India, I'd encourage you to give it a shot. The kind of beta customer group that I mentioned also included multiple companies hiring specifically in India, and they all have pretty good results.
Cool. When you say you don't have a relationship with Naukri, I assume I'm inferring that you might have a relationship with LinkedIn. Is that true or not? I mean, as another person said, is this LinkedIn approved? Have you just read the T's and C's and assumed that what you're doing is okay, or have you had a conversation with LinkedIn?
We only work with data sources or data partners where we're able to kind of compliantly access that data. In some cases, that means working directly with the platform. In other cases, it means working with third parties in between. And I can't go like too much in the depth of different data sources, but that's the same principle that we apply across different data platforms.
Yeah, fair. Okay, Sean again with the question, and that's okay to do multiple questions. Where are you getting the email from, and how many profiles indexed that don't have an email? I'm assuming you might not be able to answer that if we're generating these things on the fly, but yeah, where are you getting email addresses, and can you give us a ballpark in terms of how many are returned with an email address?
Yes. So JuiceBox uses a variety of different contact data providers to do real-time email checks and verification. So some of the partners that we have kind of publicly listed on our website as well include Contact Out, Rocket Reach, and more. And so every time it looks for someone's email, it'll go through all of those platforms. It'll do a bounce check. It'll compare them against each other to see which email address has the highest verification, and then it'll use that for outreach. We continue to add more email data partnerships too. And I'd say especially in terms of coverage of personal email addresses, we have industry-leading coverage thanks to our partnerships with all those different email data providers. And then in terms of total coverage, it depends on the specific geography and role that you're looking for. I'd expect 70 to 80% of profiles to have a verified personal email that is available. In some cases, it might be higher. In some cases, it might be a bit lower than that too.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, let's move on. We have here's an interesting question from Zoe. Can you have different profiles in the platform? For example, one for recruiters, one for hiring managers. Basically, within the platform itself, can I configure JuiceBox such that ATS-like, where I've got different permissions? Recruiters can send outreach, let's say, but you know what? I'm not happy with hiring managers doing that, or vice versa. Is that possible or not?
Yes, I love that question because we actually just launched hiring manager seats. That's available both with the kind of agent as well as the general JuiceBox platform. Just to show you briefly what that looks like too. If we go to our organization team members, we can invite new hiring managers as well, or regular members, which in this case would be recruiters. Hiring managers have slightly reduced permissions, so they're not able to kick off their own searches, but they are able to review the profiles that you found as well as leave feedback. So they're there to kind of collaborate while not having the full access. And they're also unpaid seats, so you can add as many hiring managers as you like and easily have that collaboration.
Yeah, really good. Okay. we get more prosaic questions here, but that's okay as well. We have from Sandy. If we do the free trial, is there a more detailed online tutorial we can watch, or do you need a demo? Like, this, if we need more like hand holding on this, how do we get the hand held?
Yep, for sure. So our team is happy to do a live call with you as well. So if you go through the flow and you prefer to have someone walk you through it in real time, we're happy to do that. That being said, we also have an online guide available. And so I'll just show you our knowledge base. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see this section called JuiceBox Agents. And so if you click on JuiceBox Agents, it actually has this very detailed guide on best practices for creating an agent, some Q&A, some different suggestions for it. So that's an additional option as you explore the agent. The majority of the agents currently created were kind of from fully self-serve customers who tried out the product directly. If you have like larger scale or higher volume needs, that's where a conversation might make a lot of sense as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, interesting question here from Marcel. Is it possible to import candidate data? I guess Marcel has a massive Excel file of candidates. And he's thinking, yeah, I'd like to go. I've already got them, but I need to mine them. I need to reactivate. What's the policy there? What's the situation there?
Yep, you can do that too. So I'm just going to head over to our shortlist page. And this works both for the agent. I'd say for the agent, the main relevance is that you can avoid reaching out to these profiles again. So if this is a list of profiles you've already contacted, the agent will know not to email them again. If you just want to enrich them in general, you can click import and then either drop a CSV file or insert profiles individually. And so we'll then automatically add all the data that we have for them and show them to you within your project as well.
What on the free trial, David? People like charge you money for this. It's like how this can't be free.
Yeah, so importing is free, but then accessing those people's contact data is not free. So you can do the first step, and you can kind of see the additional current company data we have, etc. But then if you want to access their, like, say, email address, that's where you'd need to purchase a paid plan.
Yeah, cool. Very, very good. I hope that's answered your question, Marcel. Folks, any more questions, stick them in the Q&A, but otherwise we might be coming to the end of this show. There's a few more things actually, just going through some of the questions that are in the chat. Talk about the custom, sort of the pricing structure. What is the pricing structure right now? Is it one of these where give us a call and we'll like figure out how much budget you got? Like, what is the number? What are the numbers here? Oh, you published it. Perfect.
Yeah, so we're very transparent with our pricing. So the JuiceBox agents are an add-on to any subscription. They're currently $300 a month for 2 agents. And so whether you purchase any existing plan on JuiceBox, you can add the agents on. You'll get unlimited contact data for any profiles that those agents find. And then you can choose to do the auto email or auto shortlist. One more additional nuance I'll highlight here is that it's two active agents. So let's say you started an agent, you ran it, and then maybe you closed out that role. You can just stop that agent and then create a new one instead. So you can always have both of them running in parallel. And the agents are available with both the monthly and annual subscriptions. Either way, they're currently billed at $300 a month.
Yeah, so $300 per agent. Base plan is what exactly, David?
Starts at 79.
79 per seat, right?
That's right. So if you're a single recruiter, you could do a $79 base plan, and then $300 gets you 2 agents. And then if you have a larger team, you could kind of go for a multi-seat plan accordingly, and then still add the agents on top.
Yeah, really good. Okay, very, very interesting. By the way, I'm getting a bunch of people on comments saying, yeah, we're on the trial. I'm getting candidates. And that's very, very promising, particularly from people with, looking at very, very different job roles also. So this is extremely exciting, very, very good to see. Some people have asked the final question, where do I get where's the link to access the tool? So can we share that link, folks? Has someone got this?
For sure.
JuiceBox.ai, there we go. Very easy. JuiceBox.ai. Tell us a bit about the branding, David. So PeopleGPT's gone. What's the story now? We should call it JuiceBox, and everything is a JuiceBox agent, correct?
Kind of, yeah. The PeopleGPT is still there in parts, so the search tab will still be called PeopleGPT, and you'll see it in a few different places. That being said, it's all kind of within the JuiceBox platform branding, and so PeopleGPT is a part of that. Our agents are a part of that, as well as the more general platform functionality.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Okay, the final question for you before I let you go, David. This looks like a really exciting sort of innovation. It's almost like we're getting to the point where there's some magical stuff happening available for recruiters to just tremendously accelerate. What do you anticipate being the situation in 6 months' time, like product roadmap wise? Can you give us a little bit of a glimpse of what's down the pipe here?
Yes, I'd say the main thing I'd expect on the agent side is they're going to be more and more configurable. And so any preference that you have, say, doing a higher volume of outreach on one day or a lower volume on another day, being able to even more deeply integrate with your existing ATS data, being able to do even more research, a lot of those things will be coming to the agents in the coming months. They are one of our top development priorities, and so every week we add new features or new functionality. The other kind of more general thing that I'd expect across the JuiceBox platform is it to work more and more holistically across your workflow. And so we already have that initial search component. We have the email outreach, but you'll be able to do more things like integrating more deeply with your ATS data, being able to bring more of your own data, being able to manage your contacts in JuiceBox as well. So truly acting as a full CRM as well.
Yeah, I think the talent pipelining aspect could be very exciting because that's one of the heaviest workloads that you have right now. Sourcing, you're going to contact a lot of candidates. A lot of candidates may want to keep in touch, but how do I do that? When I don't necessarily want to throw jobs at them all the time. That could be a very interesting advance. Okay, David, listen, thank you so much for coming on to the show. Really exciting to see that's permanently on unless it's deleted by LinkedIn. So it should be there available for you to review if you need. Okay, let me let you go, David. Great to see you, sir. Good luck what you're doing. Keep me updated in terms of the progress of the product. If new miracles emerge, do let me know, and we'll pick it up from there.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
David Paffenholz, everybody of JuiceBox.ai. JuiceBox.ai. Is this the agentic AI sourcing bot that we really want? I'm not even sure we should call it a bot anymore. It seems to be something that is operating like a 24/7 automated recruiter.